The Galactic Council's arrogance. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council stood as a testament to the arrogance of the elder races. A massive crystalline dome shimmered under the glow of 3 foreign suns, casting shifting rainbows upon the opulent floor of polished obsidian. The walls pulsed with energy, a living archive of decisions spanning millennia. Decisions that shaped the fate of thousands of civilizations. At the center of this monumental structure, beneath the scrutinizing gaze of over 50 alien species, Ambassador Nathaniel Carter of the United Earth Federation stood with an expression of carefully measured patience. He was flanked by 2 of Earth's most respected diplomats, their uniforms immaculately pressed, their eyes locked forward in silent defiance. These humans, intoned High Chancellor Vorthen, his voice a deep, reverberating hum that echoed across the chamber. His species, the Seraphis, were crystalline entities that communicated through harmonic resonance, their forms pulsing in hypnotic waves. They claimed equality among the stars, yet they stumbled upon FTL travel like a child finding a discarded toy. Laughter erupted from the assembly, clicking mandibles, guttural growls, electronic hums, and musical notes of amusement blended into a mocking symphony. Carter clenched his fists behind his back, his knuckles white with restrained fury. He had expected this. The elder races saw humanity as a cosmic accident, a fluke of evolution that had somehow survived long enough to reach the stars. In their eyes, humanity was an infant species, undeserving of the status and privileges granted to more mature civilizations. Counselor Rektar, a towering reptilian creature with emerald scales and piercing yellow eyes, let out a rasping chuckle. Your kind was throwing sticks and stones barely 3 centuries ago. We have races here who were building Dyson spheres while your ancestors cowered in caves, fearing fire and thunder. More laughter. Carter forced a polite smile, despite the contempt boiling beneath his composed exterior. With all due respect, Counselor Rektar, humanity's rate of advancement is unmatched in recorded history. In just a few centuries, we have gone from primitive combustion engines to quantum teleportation. We have developed technology that even your most advanced civilizations have yet to understand. Rektar's forked tongue flicked out in amusement. Technology you stole from ancient artifacts scattered in your own solar system, he sneered. You didn't earn your knowledge. You lucked into it. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. The old races nodded among themselves, comfortable in their belief that humans had simply been handed their technological advancements by some long-dead precursor race. Carter inhaled slowly, keeping his temper in check. We have met every requirement for full trading rights. Our industrial output rivals that of any Tier 2 civilization. Our scientific contributions. You lack maturity, interrupted High Chancellor Vorthen, his crystalline body pulsing with disapproval. You lack wisdom. And above all, you lack respect for the established order. He lifted one crystalline limb, and a glowing sigil appeared midair, spinning with alien symbols. The Galactic Council has reviewed Earth's petition for full economic and technological sovereignty. We find that humans are not yet ready for such privileges. Your current restricted status will continue for another century. After that, we will reconsider. A dead silence filled the hall. Carter exhaled slowly, then spoke with deliberate control. The Earth Federation formally protests this decision. Noted, said Counselor Rektar with a dismissive wave of his clawed hand. Though I fail to see what a species of lucky apes hopes to achieve with such a protest. Another round of laughter. Carter had expected rejection. He had expected ridicule. But the blatant mockery, the sheer arrogance of these elder species was infuriating. The younger races, scattered throughout the chamber, watched with uneasy expressions, their own protests stifled by fear. They knew what it meant to be looked down upon by the elder races, but humanity was not like the others. Carter reached into his pocket and pressed a small button 3 times. It was a simple signal, but it was the beginning of something far greater. He straightened his uniform, forced an impassive expression, and inclined his head slightly. "Thank you for your time, honored council," he said smoothly. Then, without another word, he and his delegation turned and left. As they exited the chamber, he noticed several representatives of younger races nodding subtly in his direction. They were watching. And perhaps they were waiting. Protocol awakening, the hidden hand of humanity. Back on Earth, a storm was brewing. In a hidden command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, encrypted signals spread like wildfire through classified military networks. At Lunar Base Omega, vast underground hangars rumbled as massive doors began to open, revealing ships that had never been acknowledged in public records. On Europa's secret research facility, scientists in hardened exosuits activated projects that had been deemed impossible by the elder races. And far beyond the gaze of the Galactic Council, hidden among the asteroids of the Kuiper Belt, entire cloaked shipyards powered up for the first time in human history. Inside Earth's military command, Fleet Admiral Richard Wallace stood before an array of holographic displays showing the activation of hundreds of hidden military assets. A single red message blinked across the largest screen. "Piro toxi ul awaki ining is ninaodoyu akit." His assistant, Commander Sarah Voss, swallowed hard. "Sir, once we start this, there's no turning back." Wallace's steel-gray eyes reflected the data streams before him. His voice was calm, measured. "They think we're just lucky apes who stumbled into power. They think our achievements are mere coincidence. They have no idea how long we've been preparing for this." He turned, facing the assembled officers, men and women who had dedicated their lives to ensuring that humanity would never bow to anyone. "They insulted us. They mocked us. And now," he said, his voice low and steady, "they will learn why humanity is the most dangerous species in the galaxy." A hushed silence filled the room. And then, in unison, the officers stood at attention. The game had changed. The Galactic Council had sealed its fate, and humanity was about to show the universe what it truly meant to evolve. The gathering storm. The Earth Defense Command War Room, hidden beneath 3 kilometers of reinforced rock, was deathly silent, save for the hum of holodisplays and the rhythmic tapping of fingers against glass consoles. The chamber, buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, was the beating heart of humanity's greatest secret, a command center designed for the moment the galaxy realized what humans were truly capable of. Fleet Admiral Richard Wallace stood at the central command podium, his sharp blue eyes scanning the unfolding deployment orders displayed on the massive tactical board. Across the room, military officers, intelligence analysts, and scientific minds worked with cold precision, adjusting calculations and finalizing decades-old contingency plans. Behind Wallace, the holographic projection of Atlas, Earth's most advanced artificial intelligence, flickered into existence. His digital form shifted between complex equations and human-like representation, a sentient algorithmic mind that had surpassed even the best computational models of the Galactic Council. "Protocol awakening is fully active, Admiral," Atlas reported in a calm, modulated voice. "All hidden production facilities have been activated. Initial fleet manufacturing is progressing at 142% above projected estimates. Our cloak systems remain undetected by Council surveillance networks." Wallace nodded, unfazed. They had planned for this moment for half a century. While the Galactic Council mocked humanity as a primitive upstart, Earth had been silently forging weapons and technologies in the cold darkness of space. The Council never saw past their own arrogance. They failed to realize that humanity's strength was never in technology alone, but in its ability to adapt, to innovate, and to survive. Wallace turned to his chief military strategist, General Catherine Vasquez, a hardened war veteran with decades of experience in covert operations. "How long until they detect our shift in industrial output?" Wallace asked. Vasquez glanced at her datapad. "With our signal obfuscation tactics, 3 months, maybe 4. By the time they notice, will already be at full operational capacity. She swiped a hand across the air, displaying a new classified strategic overlay. The Lunar Foundry is fabricating warships faster than expected. Europa's black sites have begun final assembly on our quantum manipulation drives, and our Mars-based cybernetic warfare division is already probing the Council's neural networks. Wallace exhaled slowly. They were ahead of schedule. For decades, humanity had deliberately hidden its true advancements, ensuring that no alien race suspected the leaps in science and engineering being made in secret. While the Council dismissed humans as lucky apes, Earth's brightest minds had decoded the secrets of space-time itself. And now, the time had come to unveil the truth. The first step toward war. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, hidden within the frozen husks of long-forgotten planetoids, something awakened. The black void shimmered, and one by one, massive structures deactivated their stealth fields. For centuries, these installations had operated in the dark, waiting for a moment that had finally arrived. Inside Outpost Helios, a classified station the size of a small moon, Chief Engineer Darren Cho leaned over his command console as hundreds of autonomous drones flitted through the vast shipyards, piecing together the next generation of human warships. "Bring the next assembly line online," he ordered, his voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "I want full-scale production of the Exodus-class battleships by the next cycle." Across the massive facility, skyscraper-sized robotic arms moved with inhuman precision, pulling in raw titanium and neutronium composites, shaping them into the sleekest, deadliest vessels humanity had ever built. Cho knew what was coming. The Galactic Council thought that humanity's best warships were little more than retrofitted copies of alien designs. They had no idea that Earth's greatest military minds and scientists had shattered the boundaries of conventional physics. These new ships wouldn't just match the Council's fleet. They would rewrite the laws of space warfare itself. And soon, the galaxy would learn just how wrong they had been. The war machine awakens. Across the solar system, humanity's deepest secrets were surfacing. On Titan, subterranean energy reactors roared to life, feeding power to the hidden shipyards beneath Saturn's rings. On Mars, cybernetic tacticians launched simulated war campaigns, testing battle strategies against virtualized Council fleets. In the asteroid belt, autonomous weapons foundries churned out railguns, plasma lances, and gravitational disruptors at an unprecedented rate. From the outside, Earth still appeared to be the struggling, underestimated species that the Council saw them as. But beneath the surface, humanity was a machine preparing for a reckoning. The Council's blindness. On Centauri Prime, the Galactic Council's economic chamber was in chaos. Dozens of alien trading ministers, economists, and industrial leaders gathered in a panicked assembly, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of panic. Their exports have increased 500-fold in just one standard cycle. A Drillian trade official exclaimed, his bioluminescent skin flashing in distress. Their industrial capacity should be nowhere near this level. Across the massive economic display screens, an impossible pattern was unfolding. Human products, advanced, efficient, and terrifyingly cheap, had flooded the galactic markets. Ships, weapons, medicines, even entertainment technology, all far superior to anything the elder races had created. Councillor Vorthan of the Seraphis looked over the economic reports with an expression of disbelief. "This isn't possible. We have monitored their progress for decades. There's no way they could have." He stopped. Realization dawned. A chill spread through the chamber. They had been played. For years, humanity had pretended to be the lesser species, showing only what they wanted the Council to see. While the Galactic Council laughed at their primitive understanding, the humans had been learning, adapting, and outpacing them in every field. And now, the first phase of their deception had been revealed. The Council's panic. "If this continues, our entire economic structure will collapse." Councillor Rektar snarled, his claws digging into the table. They must have hidden industries we never detected. Or worse, technologies we don't understand, muttered DeepMind, the artificial intelligence representative. Vorthen's crystalline form dimmed with unease. We must take action immediately. If they have truly surpassed us in manufacturing, what else are they hiding? For the first time in thousands of years, the elder races felt fear, and it was only the beginning. Humanity's next move. Back on Earth, Fleet Admiral Wallace stood at the helm of the largest hidden fleet ever assembled in human history. He turned toward his officers. Send the next phase order. Let the Council watch. Let them see just enough to terrify them, but not enough to understand. He smiled grimly. It's time for them to know that they should have never underestimated us. And with that, the war machine of humanity roared to life. The dawn of reckoning. The stars above Earth shimmered as thousands of vessels, ships the likes of which the Galactic Council had never seen, began to emerge from hidden strongholds. The vastness of space became an orchestra of power, where ships moved with surgical precision, preparing for what would be the most significant shift in galactic history. Admiral Richard Wallace stood at the helm of UEF Retribution, the largest and most advanced dreadnought-class battleship in humanity's secret arsenal. The command deck, filled with officers, AI analysts, and tactical engineers, hummed with disciplined urgency. Every movement was methodical. Every command was executed with military perfection. Sir, all fleets report green. Silent thunder is a go. Commander Sarah Voss announced, her piercing gray eyes locked on the real-time data stream flashing across the holo-displays. Wallace nodded. The illusion of weakness was over. It was time to step into the light. Activate the planetary shields. Begin Phase 2. Let the galaxy see just a glimpse of what we've been hiding. The Galactic Council's dismay. At the Council's capital world, Centauri Prime, the halls of power trembled with unrest. High Chancellor Vorthen, his crystalline body pulsing erratically, stared at the holo-projections before him. His normally unshakable demeanor was cracking as he watched the unfolding disaster in real time. Impossible, he whispered. This is impossible. Around him, members of the elder races, some of the most ancient and technologically dominant civilizations in the galaxy, stood frozen in disbelief. Massive energy surges radiated from Earth's system, warping the very fabric of space. Ships that had never before been detected were now appearing in waves, their hull signatures completely unknown to the Council's database. On one of the side screens, an emergency report flashed. ALERT. Human exportees, HAV or EACHED 80% of galactic trade. Local industries collapsing. ALERT. Undetectable energy shields activated around Earth and all outer colonies. ALERT. Unidentified military vessels appearing across solar system. Capabilities unknown. The Galactic Council had believed they could contain humanity's growth, that they could limit Earth's rise through trade sanctions and control technology access. They were wrong. They hadn't just underestimated humanity. They had ignored the most dangerous trait of the species, the ability to adapt. The illusion of inferiority. For decades, the Council had monitored Earth, believing them to be technological scavengers, stealing and reverse engineering ancient knowledge from derelict precursor ruins. They never realized the truth. Humanity hadn't just copied old technology. They had redefined it. They had surpassed it. And while the elder races basked in their own stagnation, humanity had taken concepts considered theoretical and made them reality. On the Council's primary data streams, Earth's recent technological advancements were now being analyzed at an alarming rate. Quantum singularities. Humanity had figured out how to control micro-black holes for infinite energy production. Inertial bypass drives. Ships could now change directions at impossible speeds, making traditional space combat obsolete. Phase-shifting armor. Hull plating that disappeared into alternate dimensions, making direct attacks useless. Artificial gravity weapons, devices capable of compressing enemy vessels into singularities in seconds. The Council had never seen this level of innovation, and for the first time in 1,000 years, they were afraid. The Council's next move. High Chancellor Vorthen turned toward the Emergency War Council, his voice sharp and urgent. If they control the economic and military landscape, we must consider direct intervention. Councillor Rektar, the reptilian warrior lord, bared his fangs. Are you suggesting war? Against an enemy we barely understand. Vorthen's crystalline form dimmed with uncertainty, but he stood firm. We must remind them of their place. If they refuse to be controlled, we will make them bow. There was silence in the chamber. Then, a deep mechanical voice cut through the tension. DeepMind, the Council's AI representative. My projections suggest that direct military action will not end in our favor. The AI's simulated eyes pulse with artificial light. They have technology we cannot counter. If we attempt war, we risk the complete collapse of Council authority. Vorthen clenched his crystalline limbs. Then what do you suggest? DeepMind's projection shimmered with thought, then responded in a voice almost human in its calculation. We must break them from within. Divide them before they become unstoppable. Earth's response. On Mars, inside the secured headquarters of Earth's top intelligence division, Project Prometheus, Director Elena Cade watched as thousands of intercepted Council communications streamed onto her screens. They're panicking, one of her analysts murmured. Cade smiled. Good. Let them sweat. She tapped a command on her datapad. Engage the counterintelligence initiative. Leak misinformation about our capabilities. Let them think they still have time to act. Across human space, thousands of digital ghost programs infiltrated the Council's networks, feeding them false reports, misleading them on Earth's true military power. Meanwhile, back on Earth Defense Command, Fleet Admiral Wallace watched as massive holographic star charts displayed the shifting movement of Council warships. They'll try something soon, he said. Commander Voss crossed her arms. Let them. It won't change what's coming. Wallace nodded. Indeed. But we won't wait for them to decide. It's time to force their hand. A message to the galaxy. Hours later, every major communication network in the galaxy was hijacked. A single broadcast played across every holoscreen, on every world, in every system. The image of Earth appeared, a blue jewel, untouched, pristine. Then Admiral Wallace's face filled the screens. To the Galactic Council and the elder races who once thought us children, his voice was calm, but there was steel in his tone. For centuries, you dismissed us. You mocked us. You ridiculed us as lucky apes playing with tools beyond our comprehension. The screen shifted, showing footage of human fleets, factories, and experimental technologies that defied understanding. You were wrong. Silence filled the airwaves. We are no longer petitioning for equal status. We are no longer waiting for your approval. We are taking our place among the stars, with or without your consent. The feed cut to black. The galaxy held its breath. And the Council finally understood the truth. Humanity was not asking anymore. They were taking their destiny into their own hands. The war they never saw coming. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was in chaos. Representatives from the most ancient and powerful civilizations in the known galaxy shouted over one another, their voices rising in a cacophony of fear, disbelief, and fury. The walls, once humming with an air of unchallenged authority, now seemed to vibrate with a different energy, one of impending doom. The holographic projection of Earth Defense Admiral Richard Wallace still lingered on the main screen, his words echoing through the chamber like a prophecy fulfilled. We are no longer petitioning for equal status. We are no longer waiting for your approval. We are taking our place among the stars, with or without your consent. A cold silence followed, more deafening than the Council had ever known. High Chancellor Vorthan stood motionless at the central podium, his crystalline body pulsing erratically. He had lived for thousands of years, had seen empires rise and fall, had watched civilizations stagnate and crumble under their own weight. But never, not once, had he witnessed anything like this. Humanity, the infant species, the so-called lucky apes, had bent the galaxy to its will. And for the first time in recorded history, the elder races were no longer the dominant force. A flawed plan for control. We should have crushed them when we had the chance, snarled Rektar, his reptilian maw snapping shut in frustration. His scaled body was trembling with anger. They were nothing but primitive creatures a mere few centuries ago. Now they threaten our very existence. Your arrogance was the problem, not ours, interjected DeepMind, the Council's AI representative. Its holographic form shifted into a series of calculations, pulsating with raw information. You dismissed their ability to innovate. You allowed them to deceive you, and now they have outgrown us. Vorthan turned his crystalline head toward the AI, his form flickering with agitation. Then what do you suggest, DeepMind? That we simply roll over and let them claim their place as equals? DeepMind hesitated. Then, in a voice void of emotion, it spoke the words that changed everything. We cannot stop them militarily, but we can still control them, through fear. The room fell deathly silent. DeepMind continued. They have proven themselves economically and technologically superior, but there is one thing we still control, their perception among the younger races. We must turn the galaxy against them before they can secure allies. We must paint them as the greatest threat ever known. A murmur spread through the chamber. It was a desperate strategy, but it was all they had left. If they could not stop humanity with brute force, they would poison their reputation. They would manipulate every species, turn them against Earth, and force humanity into a war they could not possibly fight alone. High Chancellor Vorthan narrowed his crystalline eyes. Begin the misinformation campaign immediately. Broadcast the message to all known systems. Make them believe that humanity is a danger to us all. And just like that, the first great war of the new era had begun. The Shadow War begins. Across the galaxy, propaganda flooded every communication channel. On distant colony worlds, holoscreens lit up with dire warnings. The humans are coming. Earth's people are dangerous. Unchecked, they will devour the stars. We must unite against the human menace before it is too late. The younger races, many of whom had silently admired humanity's rise, found themselves at a crossroads. Could they trust the words of the ancient council that had ruled over them for millennia? Or was it finally time to question the old order? In the shadows of space, whispers began to circulate. Not everyone believed the lies. Humanity's answer: war without violence. Back on Earth, Admiral Wallace watched the Council's misinformation war unfold with cold amusement. They thought they could turn the younger races against them. They thought they could control the narrative. But they still didn't understand what made humans truly dangerous. Director Cade, Wallace said, turning toward the head of Earth's intelligence division. How are our infiltration efforts progressing? Elena Cade, one of the most ruthless minds in espionage history, smirked. The Council thinks they're spreading lies about us. What they don't know is that we've already compromised 72% of their communication networks. Every single transmission they send, we intercept, alter, and rebroadcast. Wallace raised an eyebrow. So they're spreading lies, and we're feeding them even bigger ones. Cade nodded. Exactly. We let them think they're winning while we use their own propaganda to spread our influence. Every message they send gets twisted into something favorable for us. And best of all, they don't even realize it. Wallace allowed himself a small smile. They've already lost, haven't they? They just don't know it yet. The end of the old order. Despite the Council's best efforts, cracks began to form within their ranks. The younger races, who had spent centuries under the thumb of the elder species, were beginning to see through the lies. They saw what humanity had done. They saw the truth, that the elder races feared progress, that the council had never been interested in fairness, only in maintaining their own control. And most importantly, they saw that humanity wasn't their enemy. The council had spent too long holding others down. Now, for the first time, the balance of power was shifting, and the elder races were terrified, a reckoning unlike any other. As the Galactic Council scrambled to contain the growing rebellion, Earth launched its final move. Across the outer colonies, human-built communication arrays powered up, broadcasting a single message to every species across known space. We are not your enemies. We have no desire for war, but we will not be shackled. We will not be contained, and we will not kneel. The message spread like wildfire. The council tried to block it, but it was too late. The younger races, for the first time in history, began to question their loyalty to the old order. A storm was coming, not one of violence, but of revolution, and humanity was at its center. A final warning. Back in the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, panic had turned to dread. Their greatest weapon, control over the galactic narrative, had been taken from them. High Chancellor Vorthen clenched his crystalline fists. We were too slow. We underestimated them. DeepMind's artificial voice was tinged with something the AI was not supposed to feel. Fear. The humans have done something we never expected. Vorthen turned sharply. And what is that? DeepMind's glowing eyes flickered. They have won the war, without ever firing a shot.